At 8 in the morning, Ranvir woke up from his alarm. He took his phone out of his sleepy eyes and switched off the alarm. Mahi was sleeping with her head on Ranvir's chest. Her silky hair was covering her face. Ranvir was feeling her warm breath on his chest. Ranvir removed Mahi's hair from her face. Seeing her cute innocent face, Ranvir smiled and kissed her on the head. And strengthened his grip on her. But Mahi was in deep sleep. So Ranvir told her to wake her up by stroking her hair. "Wake up, Mahi, it's morning." But instead of waking up, Mahi rubbed her face from Ranvir's chest and went back to sleep. Seeing this cute act of Mahi, Ranvir smiled. He turned around with Mahi and started kissing her to wake her up. After a while, Mahi started coughing in her sleep due to not being able to breathe. So Ranvir left her. But Mahi was still not awake. So Ranvir took a deep breath, shook his head and got up from his bed. Then he picked up Mahi in his lap. Mahi was sleeping with her head on Ranvir's chest like a small child. Ranvir came to the washroom, lifted Mahi from her lap and put her down. But still Mahi was not awake. She was sleeping with her head on Ranvir's chest. She had wrapped her arms around Ranvir's waist. Seeing Mahi doing this, Ranvir smiled and said, "Now let's see how you don't wake up." Saying this, he turned on the shower. As soon as the water started boiling, Mahi got scared and opened her eyes. She held Ranvir tightly and started screaming, "Help! I am drowning! Help!" Ranvir held Mahi in his arms while smiling. When Mahi woke up completely, she saw that she was standing in the washroom. She lifted her head and looked at Ranvir, who was looking at her with a mischievous smile. Mahi asked her angrily, "First you troubled me all night and now you are not letting me sleep." Ranvir said while closing the shower, "Because we have to go somewhere now, that's why I woke you up. Now get ready quickly." Mahi asked with confusion, "Where do we have to go?" Ranvir said while straightening her hair, "We will know." Then he looked at her from top to bottom and said, "By the way, I am thinking that we will go tomorrow. Let's spend the whole day in our room today." Mahi understood Ranvir's intentions well. She pushed Ranvir out of the washroom and said, "You please go out." Ranvir held her waist to trouble Mahi, coming close to her ears and said, "If you don't come out in the next 15 minutes, then I will come inside. Then you know that you will not be able to stop me." With this, she kissed Mahi's earlobe. After about 2 hours, Ranvir's car was running at full speed on the road to Indore. Mahi was looking out of the window sitting on the passenger seat. Mahi had asked Ranvir many times, "Where are they going?" But Ranvir did not tell her anything. Finally, Mahi thought it was right to sit quietly. Today, Ranvir was in a very good mood. Today, for the first time after marriage, they were going out somewhere alone. But where? Only Ranvir knew this. And he did not want to spoil the surprise by telling Mahi about this. There was a lot of peace in the car. So Ranvir played a song to make the journey a little romantic. A romantic song started playing on the music player of the car. Mahi started looking at Ranvir with her head down on the seat. There was a lovely smile on her lips. And a lot of love in her eyes. Ranvir looked at Mahi. And he took her hand in his hand. He caught her fingers in his fingers and held her tightly. Mahi also liked to hold Ranvir's hand like this. She said in her heart, "May my hand always stay in your hands like this. May my hand never leave your hands." Thinking this, Mahi became emotional. At the same time, Ranvir also looked at her and said, "I will never leave your hand, my love." When the song ended, Mahi, who had been looking at Ranvir for a long time, she started looking out of the window. As soon as she looked out, her face began to shine. She recognized these parts. She quickly sat upright on the seat. She opened her eyes and started looking out. She said to Ranvir, "Ranvir, we have come to Ujjain." Mahi had a unique voice. Hearing this, Ranvir started looking at her with a smile. Ranvir knew that Mahi's childhood was spent in Ujjain. That's why she has a lot of memories here. He wanted to see the same happiness on Mahi's face. With happiness, Mahi's eyes became moist. After marriage, every girl understands this feeling well. Whenever she goes to her mother's house, she feels the same streets, the same roads, the same atmosphere, where she spent her childhood. Seeing them again, she feels a different peace. Mahi had a smile on her lips and tears in her eyes. When Ranvir saw tears in Mahi's eyes, he put his car aside and put Mahi's face in front of him. Ranvir filled Mahi's face with his palms and asked, "Hey, why are you crying? Didn't you like coming here?" Mahi said with a smile, "I am very happy, Ranvir. Thank you for bringing me here. I had never thought that I would come here again." Then she wiped her tears and said, "By the way, why did you suddenly think of coming here?" Ranvir sat straight on his seat and said, "Dear, you never said, but I know how much you miss this place. And I also want to know how my Mahi's first life was. I just want to know Mahi." Saying this, Ranvir looked into Mahi's eyes. For a while, the two were lost in each other's eyes. Then someone knocked on the window of their car. With the sound of knocking, both of their attention went that way. Outside the car, a little girl was holding a flower vase in her hand. Ranvir lowered the glass of the window and the girl said, "Sir, take a flower vase for madam." Hearing the little girl, Ranvir looked at Mahi. Then Mahi also gestured to take it. Ranvir took the flower vase from the little girl and gave her a 500 rupee note. The girl was about 10 years old. She looked at the note and then looked at Ranvir and said with hesitation, "But I don't have so much money that I can give it back to you openly." Hearing this, Ranvir smiled and said, "You don't need to return the money, keep the rest of the money with you." Hearing Ranvir, the girl started thinking something. Then Mahi said, "No problem, little girl. You think that your sister has given you this money. Now you can keep it." Hearing Mahi, the girl started smiling and she took the note from Ranvir's hand. Then she smiled and said, "Sister, your couple is super hit. Your husband looks like a hero and you look like a fairy." Then she looked at the note and said, "Today I will buy a nice toy for my brother with this money." Saying this, she ran away. Her words made Ranvir smile. Mahi held a flower in Ranvir's hand and said, "Ranvir, put this in my hair." Ranvir first looked at the flower and then at Mahi, who was sitting back towards him. Seeing this, Ranvir said, "Mahi, I can't do this. I have never done this before." Mahi turned and looked at him and said, "It's not very difficult. You just have to put a pin in it." Saying this, Mahi again sat back towards Ranvir. Ranvir sometimes looked at the flower in his hand, sometimes at Mahi's hair. Then he took a deep breath and shook his head. And started putting the flower in Mahi's hair. Then the pin got stuck in Mahi's hair. She kept her hand on her hair and said, "Ranvir, what are you doing? The pin is getting stuck in my hair." Ranvir said, "Oh, sorry. I will do it carefully now." While putting the flower in Mahi's hair, Ranvir's face expression was as if he was doing the toughest job in the world. Finally, after 15 minutes, he put the flower in Mahi's hair. Then he said with excitement, "Yes, finally, it's done." Then he said with great pride, "There is no job in the world that Ranvir Roy Kapoor can't do. I am proud of myself." Mahi opened her mouth. She was looking at Ranvir with strange eyes. She said, "I have just put the pin in the flower. And that too in 15 minutes, which is a matter of a few seconds." Ranvir started the car and said, "Yes, I don't make girls wear flowers. But today, for the first time, I did it perfectly." After hearing Ranvir's words, Mahi rolled her eyes and started looking outside again. After a while, Mahi said quickly, "Ranvir, stop the car." Ranvir looked at Mahi and said, "What happened?" Mahi said again, "Stop the car." Ranvir stopped the car on the side. Then Mahi looked at Ranvir and said, "Come on, I'll show you my school." Saying this, Mahi came out of the car. Ranvir looked ahead. There was a girls' school building in front. Seeing this, Ranvir also came out. Mahi came running to her and started pulling her hand and taking her away from there. After reaching outside the school, Mahi found the guard of the school who looked very old. He had been guarding the school since Mahi had taken admission in the nursery in this school. Since then, Mahi had been studying here till 12th grade. Mahi ran to him and said, "Uncle, how are you?" The guard looked up at Mahi and said happily, "Mahi dear, you are here?" Saying this, he put his hand on her head. Mahi said happily, "I have brought them to show you my school." Hearing Mahi's words, he looked at Ranvir standing behind Mahi, who was smiling at Mahi being so happy. The guard, whose name was Ramesh, asked Mahi, "Dear, who is he?" Hearing Uncle's question, Mahi looked at Ranvir once, then bowed her head shyly and said, "Uncle, he is my husband." Seeing Mahi being so shy, Ranvir's smile got even deeper. At that time, Mahi was looking very lovely to him. He wanted to hug Mahi and kiss her in his arms. But neither the place was right nor the time. Uncle said with a smile, "Oh, so he is our son-in-law. Mahadev has made a perfect couple of Ram and Sita." Then he folded his hands and said, "Greetings, son. It was a pleasure to meet you." Then he looked at Mahi and said, "Our Mahi is a little naive, but she is very lovely." Mahi said to Uncle, "Uncle, can we see our school now? I can't wait anymore." Uncle said with a smile, "Yes, yes, dear, go. See your school." Saying this, he opened the gate. So how is Mahi and Ranvir's Ujjain trip going to be? To know more, keep listening to Oh Baby only on Love Pulse Diaries.